This edition of the A7FL Other Side of the Ball podcast is dedicated to the memory of Coach Donnie Bunac.
Welcome to the self-proclaimed second best podcast of the A7FL. This is the A7FLs, the other side of the ball. My name is Casey Cox. I am the host of the show. Alongside me, Double D, Derek Duncan, the division owner of Nevada. We start this podcast off very somberly in remembrance of one of our fallen brothers that we have lost this past week, Coach Donnie Bunac, coach of the Insomniacs. Derek Duncan, with that, I will bring you on in.
Thank you for the introduction, Casey. And as somber as this is, and as sad as we all are about losing Donnie, I also want to say that Donnie was rarely a somber and quiet guy. And I think the way we show respect to him best is by keeping the energy level up and not getting into too deep into the sadness. Not that, if somebody wants to, we welcome that. But Donnie was, as I know him, always a guy who was joking, even in the face of adversity. So that's my take on the whole situation. But really happy to have the folks we have on our podcast tonight to help pay tribute to one of the best guys I've ever known, especially in the football community. So we've got with us tonight Coach AJ Quitugua. I think I finally learned how to say that properly. Who is going to be, we'll save that for later. We have Coach Anthony Bartley of the Pitbosses and Coach Big Mac from the Force, and our division owner, coach and former team owner, or still a team owner, I'm not sure how that all works, Kelly Hurst. Welcome everyone to the podcast. How's everyone doing this evening?
Introduction.
Doing well.
Great.
Blessed.
Right on, guys. Well, Casey, I'll let you kick things off as the host of the show. What do you got for us tonight, sir?
Well, really, I mean, I kind of wanted to touch a little bit. I thought it was pretty cool to open it up the way the 3-on-1 podcast opened up. If everybody got to listen to that, they actually had a player from Florida that actually came up that was touched by Coach Bunac and actually played for Bunac in the semi-pro leagues and talked about his experience with the coach allowing him to live in his house. And just that's kind of the kind of person we all know Donnie to be, is he's willing to give the shirt off his back to almost anybody, whether you're on his team, a part of his family. If he knows you, he looks at you as family.
And that's a great way to start it off. I'm sure we all have great stories that we could tell about Donnie, and that's kind of where I want to get into tonight. I want to save the Coach Q conversation to towards the end of the podcast, but want to give everybody an opportunity to maybe tell a Donnie story to start off, and then get into like a group conversation. So with that, I'll kick off so you guys can kind of see what I was hoping for. So I met Donnie when I hosted a football community summit at my local Elks Lodge, as I was trying to develop a combine for high school kids that were looking to go into college that didn't get the looks that most Vegas kids don't get if they're not performing at a high level throughout their entire career, and they're not sending out tape and sending out videos. So I put together this platform and an idea and reached out to some of the people I knew in the football community, and they reached out to all the people they knew in the football community, and Donnie was one of the guys that showed up for that event. And in true Donnie Bunac, always recruiting fashion, while we're sitting there trying to put on an event, he convinces me that I need to come out and try out for his semi-pro football team as a quarterback. And the guy was always team building every time you got around him. He gave that day me the confidence. Like, look, you look like you trimmed some weights and you're telling me you lost 30 pounds. You could probably still play this game. Why don't you come out and give us a go? And to his credit, I literally went out, performed well, and ultimately got named the starter before I injured myself, which you've probably heard this story 20 times now on this particular podcast. But that is Donnie. He always recruiting, always looking out for the next man, giving him the confidence that they need to perform at a high level. And he did that for me. So I'll say post-mortem, thank you, Donnie Bunac, for everything you brought to my life, especially for reintroducing me to the game of football. Anybody else have a story they want to share?
So I'll hop in. This is Kelly. I met Donnie through football. I met Donnie quite some time ago. We'd had a couple conversations online and different things. And then we ultimately kind of sealed the friendship, familyship, if you will, when I started working really closely with the Pac West Football League. Donnie was on the board. Donnie was coaching with the Thundercats. I was managing the Thundercats. So we literally went from like talking once a week to once a day to 20 times a day. And it was lovely. At times we hated each other. At times we loved each other. But one thing about Donnie was that Donnie always made you feel safe. I knew I had a number one fan, like, your mom or your kids or your family members, your spouse, they're going to be your number one fan. But Donnie not having that, familial bond, like DNA type bond or stuff like that. Like at the end of the day, you never felt that Donnie didn't have that bond with you, because every time you called him, every time you saw him, you knew that he was going to be that cheerleader on the sideline, and he was going to jump and he was going to dance and he was going to sing and he was going to do everything he could, kind of like how he did with you, Derek, like empower you. He allowed you to see your light, even when he had a lot of dark times. We all kind of know he had some health issues and stuff like that, but he always found a way to allow you to see your light and to shine his light. And it's kind of a quirky story, because at first, like, I didn't know how to address him being an amputee. And so I wanted to be very respectful. And first thing he said is, I said, Coach Donnie, he goes, no, it's peg leg. And I was taken aback. Like, what do you say to that? Like, do you say, is it wood? Does it are you going to get, termites? What do you say to that? And so he grabbed my phone and he put his number in and he put it in under peg leg. So anytime we were somewhere, anything, my phone pops up and you see Donnie's face, and across the top, you see peg leg. And it's funny that we talk about him giving the shirt off his back to people. At one point in time when he was coaching, because not only did he coach beside me on the Thundercats, he actually coached for me on my California Sharks. And then we developed a different team together. We sat and talked with the IFL together. So there was a lot of developments that happened. But during my Shark season, and actually one of my guys posted this on one of the memorial pages that we were all talking about, Donnie, my player Chris and Donnie had like this, they were total jokers together. And Donnie had got to kind of talk and smack a little bit about Chris, and Chris had a bum knee. And Donnie said, well, hey, I got one for you. I got a leg for you. So later on in the day, Chris comes over and he says, look, dude, I'm going to kick this field goal, but I need your leg for it. Like, you want to give me a hard time? I want nothing more than to kick a field goal with your leg. And that became like the joke of the season. And Donnie, gestured that he was going to give Chris his leg. I mean, like, you look at that moment in time, you don't know how to take it. But when Felipe said something on one of the posts, and he's like, Donnie, I was thinking about all of our good memories. And one of my memories was when, Chris was going to kick. And it's like, you don't think about those things, but like, a lot of people would have been so bitter and so angry and so ugly about the circumstances of their situation. And Donnie had a way of accepting it, allowing you to accept it, and making it safe to talk about it. And that was just a small part of the beauty of him. But that's something that we will always laugh about, is like, anytime we needed an extra kicker, Donnie literally would try to hand us his quote unquote peg leg. So it was very kind of weird to even talk about it now. But that is one thing that always has resonated through the Sharks and through the Thundercats, was that Donnie always had an extra leg should we ever need one.
And that's exactly the type of guy that Donnie was. He made the best of every situation, and every time anything was uncomfortable, he always brought levity to the situation every single time. I swear to you, there wasn't a single time I was in his presence where he did not talk about doing something sexual with me, regardless of the how serious we were in a meeting with sponsors. He pulled me to the side, like, by the way, I'm gonna blah blah blah. I'm like, bro, every time? He's like, every time. So thank you for sharing that, Kelly. I just love this guy so much and appreciated everything he brought to us. And I'm going to ask Coach Bartley to go next, because of all the people I know who had a relationship with Donnie that joked all the time, especially when serious and even when fighting, it was Coach Bartley. Coach?
Hey, good evening, folks.
Good evening to you.
I just, this is really taking a toll on me, because Donnie and I were super close. There wasn't a day where we really did not have conversation. We would talk, 6-7 times a day. Again, and just like everybody else, we met through football. And Donnie, whether we were competitors going up against each other, or even when we worked together at the high school, over at Democracy Prep, he always kept it real with me, one way or another. I know if I needed to vent, while I was going through my issues up in Reno, it's like he was right there for me. Whenever he needed to get something off his chest, he'd call me, and we'd sit there, we'd talk it out, and we always had that bond. He was one of very few people who I can trust to take care of my son. And that says a lot for me, because I just don't trust anybody, named especially to, have my son in their presence. And he was one of them, Ramsey, Chris, they always called me Uncle Bartley. That's how close we were, literally. My wife, he was close with my wife. My wife has had a nickname for him, Otter Pop. Whenever he's on the phone, and she knows I'm talking to her, she's, how's my Otter Pop doing today? It's just, man, it just feels really weird not being able to talk to my boy, my brother. But I can honestly say,
is there a history behind the name Otter Pop that you're willing to share with us? Because Otter Pop also sounds like other dad.
Well, it was funny how, I had a player that played for me on the Assassins, and when he had the Lions, and we had a game. We actually had an indoor game over at this facility right there over behind Clark High School. And one of my players was, I forgot how it all transpired, but he had one of those Otter Pops. And it just clicked. Donnie said something smart, and it was funny as hell. And my wife it was right there, and she just started calling him Otter Pop. And it just stuck with him ever since.
Do you remember what color it was? At least we can get that. Hopefully it was Insomniac red.
I wish I knew, but that was our thing,
So
but
Bartley,
Donnie,
what's the story behind Virgil's, man? That's the one thing that I never got the history on. It must be some restaurant that you guys know well that the rest of us don't.
Yeah, Virgil's, it was the barbecue restaurant right there over in the Lake Promenade. And he and I, we took our families there. We had lunch over there, because when I first went over there, I just raved about the wings. The wings were the bomb, And so we all went, we ate there, and that's been our thing. So if I owed him for something, take me to Virgil's. Take me to Virgil's.
And is it still open?
Okay. No, they actually are not open anymore. That's what hurts. But it was always Virgil's. You know, you owe me Virgil if I beat him during the game. Well, I let you, so you can just take me to Virgil's.
Right. I remember hearing all that, which is
after
why
Virgil's.
I asked.
Yeah, and it's like right after Virgil's, you can take me and give me some thrifty ice cream too.
Right, exactly.
And I'm like, okay, don't even worry about paying me back anything, blah, blah, blah. Just take me to Virgil's.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
You owe me Virgil's every day we did not have a conversation without him bringing up Virgil's. He wanted his Virgil's and his thrifty ice cream.
Well, I guess it's appropriate that Virgil's is no longer around. That's
yeah.
I guess a sad way to close that story. But thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
But I will be having Thrifty's ice cream in his honor this weekend.
Well, look, let's hook up because I love me some Thrifty's ice cream. I'm going to see if they got a vegan version, but I'm in.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Coach. What about you, Coach Q?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I'm still lost for words here, Coach. In fact, I'm one of those guys that take things deeply, and I apologize if the words don't come out right. So this is going to be short for me. I'm very emotional. Donnie and I go way, way, way back 10, 11 years ago, I believe 9. You know, we separated ways because I always traveled with my kids working, out of state. And coming back here, when I found out this team and Tay introduced me to the A7, and I guess Donnie got wind of my name. Boy, he got a hold of my number, got a hold of me, kept trying to convince me to come in. I mean, it's like Coach Donnie Bartley said, you'd always expect that call. And just a short time relationship, he and I getting back together with these last few months, it's become a daily thing with me, Coach Bartley, Coach. And if he didn't call me by 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, after I knew he'd probably be in dialysis, I made sure I gave him a ring, called his son, find out where he was at, if he was going well. But we're going to lose a good guy, and Coach Bartley, I'm going to hold that to you for that Krispy Kreme ice cream, because he always mentioned that even when we went out together, we always met, had breakfast, lunch, met at his truck, did a couple things. And
hang on a second, what is Krispy Kreme ice cream? I don't know
you
about that.
You asked Coach Donnie Bartley because he owes one to him.
He means the thrifty ice cream.
Oh, okay. I was like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like, so, I'll stop being vegan for some Krispy Kreme ice cream. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So I was glad that I spent those last few days with them out at his truck. Finally got his truck. He's so happy, back on the road. All our brothers are getting back together. Coach Bartley, I, Ramsey. And we were looking forward to a lot of good things, and he reached out to me with a lot of things that it became reality now. It's looking like it's becoming reality. And Rashad can contest to this or answer up to this, that he even sent Rashad messages about me, about what we're going to do. And, and believe it or not, it looked like he had everything planned out already. So that being said is why I, wanted to, assume that position after being asked by the players, Ramsey, keeping it family oriented and just keeping his legacy, his style moving forward, because we're about the same. I like to, do exactly what he does. We're all, learned our lessons. We're not young anymore. He wasn't young. He knew how to handle situations that, if it arose. And he'd always call me up. And remember, like 3.5 months, Coach Derek, I told you I passed. I told everybody I passed. But that one phone call after that all-star meeting, I just had to sit down and think about it. And then he texted me again. So how can you not accept something that a great friend, family, brother of yours is wanting you to venture because he knows it's a situation for you. So I had to accept. And ever since then, we become brothers. It's like with Coach Bartley and I, we're like, hey, we got to talk to one another every day and keep him in our presence because it's become a, part of our family now. And I'm doing my best to help his son. His son asked me to help him. He told me he wanted me to help him with the picks, Pinoy picks. And boy, I'm going to do everything I can to, keep his legacy and live his wishes. And even he's younger than I am, I still like to follow some of his lead at the age that, he passed. And let me tell you something.
All right, hang on, Coach Q. Let me jump in real quick because you're saying some things that the rest of our audience is not necessarily going to understand. So okay. I want to bring them up to speed with some of the things you've just talked about, and then we can get into the rest of it. So number one, you said you were invited to take over. So we are officially announcing on our podcast at this very moment that Coach Q will be taking over the head coaching role of the Insomniacs. So
congratulations, Coach. I'm so happy for you. Oh, my heart is so happy.
So
thank you.
So happy.
So we all thought as a group, an organization, knowing the love between Coach Bartley, Coach Q, his players, and everything that with Coach coming into the league as a new coach and Coach Bartley already having an established team in the Pitbosses, it really made sense if we were going to replace a head coach to have it be Coach Q. The love's already there. The amount of work that's being done is already there. Obviously, the logical choice also would have been Bartley, but Bartley had already developed the Pitbosses team, and that brand and franchise is already going strong. So Coach Q was the natural choice, and he was willing, and the team captains of the Insomniacs blessed the decision as well. So it seems like a great fit for everyone involved. We'll put a pin in that and come back to that. You also mentioned. Go ahead.
I can say this, Derek, that I told Coach Q that he had 110% of my vote for that because he's to his family. So why not keep it in the family?
100%, and thank you very much for giving that support as well. All of this doesn't work the way it needs to without everybody's buy-in. Coach Q being the man he is, Coach Bartley, you being the man you are, and Donnie being the man he was, and the captains of the Insomniacs appreciating everybody that is surrounding that family, that's wrapped their arms around that family. With your vote of confidence, Coach, and with your vote of confidence, Kelly, Coach Q is just a natural fit once we have those blessings. So, Coach, we're all very happy that you've assumed the role, and like I said, we'll put a pin in that, but I cannot wait to see what that squad looks like with the guys that you had already built for the Snake Eyes that are now going to join the Insomniacs team. There'll be a full-fledged roster day one as a result of that. So a lot of good things happening because Coach Q's assuming that role. Sorry it had to come down this way, obviously, but it's going to be a good fit for everyone that's involved.
Well, and Coach Q, real quick there, Coach Q, I wanna let you know that as much as Donnie talked to you guys, Donnie talked and shared with me a lot too. Even though I'm geographically separated, Donnie and I had a lifeline on a variety of levels, not just football. We talked about our health, we talked about our kids, we talked about a variety of different things, and the plans that he had talked about with the team, he had shared in depth with me. And these are little happy tears. I'm not gonna, thank God we're not on video because I ugly cry. But these are very
I just turned your video on. I'm only kidding.
I'm so happy because Donnie felt such a connection with you being an Islander also. So the culture that you brought and you bring, as when you were with the Gloves, when you were talking about the Snake Eyes, when, just even as your friendship, he connected with you culturally and how true you are to Ohana and how he would go into depth and he'd say, well, Kelly, Filipinos and this, we're all Pacific Islanders. I mean, he really went into depth into that background with me. And so I want you to know that it wasn't something that he just shared with some of the guys. Like, he had in-depth, I mean, and I can literally say, because Donnie and I at times would talk for 2 hours at a time. He'd be at treatment. Sometimes I'd be at treatment. And I can say he wholeheartedly spent hours talking about the relationship with you, what you meant coming in, even as, you know, as the Snake Eyes or whatever it was, any other venture that you and the other, you know, you guys were talking about with Coach Bartley. Like, he appreciated so many values that you have. It's beyond words. What this, I know he's smiling from heaven right now, knowing that that is going to continue.
Wow. You know, it looked like God just had his plans, and Coach knew, you know what he was facing coming up. And you know, just to let you guys know, you all know this, they thought he couldn't walk. Man, when I first met him, he was so happy he got his truck out. Do you know, I helped him out of the truck, and that man walked when he even didn't know that he was walking. Coach, what are you doing walking? He's like, oh, I just wanted to get up and give you a hug. I'm like, no, come on, wait for your wheelchair. And Shaw was pushing the wheelchair in. And, you know, for what he's done and to be where he was up to the point that he passed, and all just the verbal stuff that he put out there is for us to carry on and hold within us deep. You know, him getting out with all his ailments, you know, I don't see too many people that do that. You know, taking care of his dogs, his son, his truck, his wife, his grandson. Oh man, he had a task and he fulfilled it all.
Yeah, he's definitely that dude. And like we've all said, gave of himself even when he didn't have anything to give. I mean, I can recall on numerous occasions him not having a lot of stuff at his disposal, but still inviting many players to come stay with him, get a roof over their head so they can build and start building their life in Las Vegas, or just get them off the street for a little while so that they can, you know, start figuring out what they're going to do with themselves. On the 3-on-1 podcast that dropped today, as Casey alluded to, there was a player that, like he's done for so many other people, but this one guy said, you know, man, he just saw me on the streets, knew who I was, and said, what are you doing? He's like, come by the house later. And then dude came by the house, and Donnie was like, why don't you crash here until you get your stuff together? That's just the kind of guy he was, even if he didn't really have room for him in his house, because he had 6 other people there too. But he would make it happen. You know, he'd go sleep on the couch or go sleep in a chair and let old boy sleep on the couch or something. That's just who he was, even if he had nothing to give of himself. And I loved him.
Yes. You know, and I appreciate everybody's welcome. And, you know, especially one of his close players, Rashad, a couple other guys that know me, that approached me with this. You know, I didn't approach them. They came to me, and then I told them to go to the right people. I don't have a say so, but if it turns out to be that way, that this is the way we decide, then I'll take it, and I'm going to build it, and I'm going to run with it, and we're going to bring the ship home.
Yeah, and so just so you're aware, Rashad sent me a text. He's like, all right, Coach Q is going to be the head coach. I'm like, it don't just work like that, but I appreciate it. Let me go talk to him and see what's up, make sure everybody's good to go. But everybody was super excited to have you, Coach. So really, really, really happy to have you in that position. I think it's going to be great for those guys and the guys you're bringing over to that squad. So one other thing I wanted to touch on, because you mentioned Pinoy Picks, that is the Bunac family food truck that will be out at First Friday at the Harrison House at 1001 F Street, doing a fundraiser to benefit Donnie's family and to help lay him to rest and get those funds together. So if you're hearing this and you hear it before November 4th, First Friday in Las Vegas from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Pinoy Picks food truck, the Bunac family food truck, will be out with tacos, burgers, and everything to raise money for the family and bring awareness to the Harrison House and, you know, do a lot of stuff together. So, and Coach Q and the players and the family, and I think even some of the Force players are going to be out there helping on the truck and getting everything together. So the entire football A7 community is coming together to pull this thing off for the family and put on a nice event for Las Vegas. So I just want to make sure we touched on that because you mentioned Pinoy picks. So, Coach, did you have anything else you wanted to add to or tell us your favorite Donnie story, or maybe the day the day you met?
Yeah. No, I'm going to go all the way up to the end here, because the last time I was talking to Donnie a couple of days before he was in my, before Saturday, it was a Friday I was talking to him. He's like, man, I'm going to put my specials on this truck as soon as we get it back on, Coach. I said, what's that? He's like, oh, the ribs, the Korean ribs, the short rib special with rice. And, I'm like, okay. And my double cheeseburger special, my tacos, right? So they brought it up to me. The family brought it up and says, we want to do this for Dad. I'm like, it's up to you. Do it. And Neela says, go for it. I'm like, okay. So we're putting one of his specials out that day, first Friday. So, in honor of him and his special stuff. And we're going to keep that legacy going off that Pinoy Picks truck, that catering truck. So
it's going to be fun. Thank you, Coach. I really appreciate you jumping in and getting involved. We can use all the help we can get, and you're the man for the job.
All right. I appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. I appreciate everybody. Coach Bartley, Rashad, Coach Kelly, Derek, Coach Matt, everybody. Just, I'm blessed. I feel blessed and honored to, be in with this league A7, and it's already showing me a lot, teaching me a lot. And we're going to move forward and then do our best to bring that ship home for Las Vegas and Coach.
So let's shift the conversation for just a minute, and maybe we can keep it there. Maybe we can come back to this. So let's talk about Insomniacs football and the squad you now have by combining what was the new Insomniacs with Rashad and Mark Cooper coming, teaming them up with Ramses and Chris and whomever else remained on the previous Insomniac squad, and you bring in Quentin and Tay and the other Snake Eyes guys over to the Insomniac side. What does that squad look like for you right now?
Oh, I'm it's going to be a good one. And we have, I believe, all the talent that we need. And I think that, it will be well composed, because a lot of the players that have been on the Insomniacs, the players that I'm bringing on, are all willing to play for one another, play for a unit, play for the team. And they're not that selfish type, a player that wants to, hog the ball, get the ball from me. These guys that I've been talking to and the players that I have that know me know that, everybody's going to get a taste of this. Everybody's going to share the glory. Everybody's going to get a taste of the ball and play as a unit. But I think we're going to have a real fast team. Like I told you, our first podcast, we're going to have a real fast team. We've got two good, decent quarterbacks. We picked up some really good receivers, and plus the receivers that Coach Donnie had on board. So I think we'll be pretty well competitive. And I feel better now because, being with the Sin City Snake Eyes, I'm like, wow, I got to compete with all these big boys who've been composed for a while now. Well, now I'm up there with the big dogs. So come on, we bring the hammer. And I'm going to use the same thing that Coach Donnie told everybody. Coach Bartley, I'm coming at you, brother.
So Coach, so one of the things I want to recommend that you make sure you keep in your mind and you keep with your captains, I'm sure it'll happen organically, but you mentioned something very specific at the beginning of that. And that was that everyone's looking to play for each other and play for a team, and a team. If things start to get a little bit out of line, and you remind them that you guys are dedicating this season to Coach Donnie, there's no reason why anybody who's on that team shouldn't fall directly back in line. Not saying that they will ever get out of line, but if they do, you've always got that as a fallback, man. And everyone who knows him, who's ever spent any time with him, will appreciate what he brought to them and will immediately shape up. As far as I'm 99% sure of that. So
I was going to say that should be the only thing you have to say at that point.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're going to remember, Donnie always said that after every event, seafood, crab legs, shrimp, all that is on you. So if you bring that championship to the Insomniacs, you're going to be paying for it for the whole league, buddy.
Well, let me put it this way. I've talked to the family already, and we're going to keep that legacy going.
Oh, that's awesome.
Everybody's going to eat after the game.
That's a beautiful thing, Coach. Appreciate that.
Yep. We're going to break bread, and everybody, let's go. Hit the truck. Order what you want. I'll be back there, too, prepping for them. So, it's going to be just like the way Coach Donnie had it, just without his presence, but presence in hearts.
Well, regardless of the fact, this whole season is for Donnie. I mean, that's my brother.
Yes, sir.
All for him.
So I was going to say
why I got into this.
So I was going
to. I'm sorry.
I was going to go ahead, Coach. Because if we carries this through, I won't need to make this announcement. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries. I was going to say, Donnie is the reason why how I even got involved in the A7. He's the reason why I'm even, looking at bringing back another semi-pro out. So, like I said, everything is for him.
Well, let me touch on that. Every single person that's on this podcast right now, except for KC, is here as a direct result of Coach Donnie Bunac. I don't get back into football if it's not for Donnie grabbing me at the Elks Lodge that day and say, "Hey, bro, you can do this," right? I don't end up on the Lions and meeting GM Troy and Coach Mac without them playing side by side with me and then Mac being my defensive coach. I don't meet Bartley until I go to set up this league and tell Donnie, "Look, I need you to coach my team." He's like, "Hey, I want to bring this dude, Anthony Bartley," and I'm like, he knows he's set up teams, run teams. He's your guy. He'll coach a team. And then I don't meet Kelly unless that Donnie's singing her praises for 2 months before I bring her on as the division manager. Like every single thing that is A7 started because of Donnie Bunac and our relationship and our friendship and me trusting in the people that he trusts. And that's how this entire thing came together. So there is no A7 Nevada without Donnie Bunac. And I just want to give him his roses today. Unfortunately, I don't think I ever expressed it to him that well while he was alive, but he and I talked a lot, not 7 times a day like Kelly and Bartley. I don't know how many, and Coach Q. That's 21 calls. That dude's a busy man.
You know what, Derek? He had shared with me quite a few times what you and the league have meant to him, and I'm sure he shared it with Bartley. I'm sure he shared it with Q. I know that Neela was in on a lot of the conversations. I think that it was a feeling. It was a vibe he got. He knew maybe it wasn't the words he needed, but I think that he knew your heart. And part of that was, I know, at least with me, because I had some rocky relationships with leagues and different things in the past. And the heart that he put into speaking about the A7, but also speaking about you as who you are, you as a business person, you as a football player, you as these things. I think he felt your trust and your love, and that is how he was able to bring it to, for instance, Bartley, myself. So maybe giving him the flowers, it might not have been in the verbal sense, but he definitely felt it in his heart. He shared it, I know, with me. And I know that vibe, he had that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that. There's a lot of things we did for each other throughout the years, and none of it needs to be put out in public. We have both taken very good care of one another spiritually, financially, whatever has ever been needed over the course of the last 9 years. We have supported each other tremendously. He knew I always had his back, and I knew he always had mine. He took care of me with events that I couldn't get to. He went and sat in my spot, made sure everything was good, took care of it until I could get there, or just did the whole thing for me. The dude was just a rock solid individual that always would be there anytime I needed him. And the flowers I gave him was the friendship we had. Unfortunately, I didn't get to broadcast to the greater world how much he meant to me before his passing is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And you said I'm the only one that's not here as a direct link of Donnie, but then again, in a way, aren't I kind of an indirect here indirectly because of Donnie? Because in a way, it almost seems like none of this A7FL Nevada would have happened without the presence of Donnie Bunac. So I wouldn't have had this opportunity without the presence of Donnie Bunac.
Oh, 100%. I'm just saying the rest of the people on the podcast were actually introduced to me by Donnie. It was a direct link. But yeah, you're right, Casey. A7 doesn't happen. I don't get to know you. You and I aren't sitting on the broadcast together doing play-by-play and color announce if he doesn't make all those things come together. So yeah, you have a job because of Donnie Bunac. How about that?
Yeah, Coach.
Absolutely.
Coach, yeah, Coach Derek.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So and because of Coach Donnie, if it wasn't for him calling me right after that All-Star game and texting me the next day, and here's what he also said: they're going to take care of you. Don't worry, I got your back, Coach. Derek is a good guy. He's got your back. You know, you don't even have to worry about him because you're a straight up guy. So you don't have to worry about anything. He's got your back. Coach Kelly's got your back. I got your back. Coach Bartley's got your back. And then we started talking to, do something else, venture something else. And boy, did that spark up also. I'm like, time out, guys. Let's focus on A7. So his inspiration is what made me be here with the A7FL League today. If he didn't call me probably or text me the next day, I probably would have passed and just sat at home and relaxed. But because of him inspiring me and texting me, calling me, and telling me you're the good guy for this, and I believed him, and I jumped on it and bid on it 101%.
So the funny and weird thing about my relationship with Donnie and his family is I think that they finally said, okay, Derek, you're family now. So when I went to visit him at the hospital, the first time he was in after I was introduced to him. So Donnie came to the lodge, the Elks Lodge. We did our event. He invited me out to do the sports thing. I told you that story already. But then right after that, Donnie joined the Elks Lodge and became a member of the Las Vegas Elks Lodge and helped me run events down there because that was kind of what I did. I was always doing social things down there to, keep camaraderie and keep people going. Well, so Donnie, about 3-4 months into that, went to the hospital with whatever he was dealing with that day. And that day he sat up in the hospital bed and died sitting up. Now we're talking 7 years ago now. He was sitting there dead for, I think they said, they don't know the time, but they gather it was 60 to 70 seconds before a nurse came in and heard his flatline and actually revived him. I say it's funny because that scenario has happened once a year since I've known him. And to the point where I'm like, okay, so Donnie, just don't die before I see you next time. And we'll continue this conversation. It was kind of a parting joke. I didn't say that to him the last time we got off the call. And now I regret it, but he had so many crazy health issues and still stayed positive about everything all the time. And to this day, I still hope that he sues the hospital for him not being taken care of properly and get his family taken care of. But the dude just always remained positive about everything is where I'm at with that. I just love that guy.
Wow.
It's funny because Donnie and I had a lot of instances. He'd be at dialysis, I'd be in my infusion, and I have a lot of different health issues, and I felt safe talking about them with Donnie, which, they put a port in my chest. I was getting IVs 12 hours a day. I still have the port in my chest. And it was funny because we would almost have a competition. I would call him and I'd say, hey, I just left the doctor's office and they took, 12 vials of blood. And he's like, come on, I did that in my sleep, and it got us through some of our times where we didn't know if the next day, for me, I knew I would wake up. I just didn't know if I'd be able to get out of bed or how I would feel, if I could move, if I could function, just a variety of different things. When I got COVID, there's been a lot of things that have happened since then, and it only complicated health things. And that was one thing that helped me, is that number one, I knew I could trust him talking about those things, that there was no judgment, there was no, and that was pretty much any topic, but health issues. And when you have chronic illnesses, a lot of times people don't understand. They don't understand what it means. They're afraid to ask questions or they make assumptions. And so it was so nice to be able to, and then for him to, you know, kind of say, oh, come on, 12 miles, big deal. You know, he definitely had taken all that was given to him health wise, and he didn't necessarily like make it okay, but he made me feel okay when I knew I was having my dark days. And I know it's going to be tough when I go back for my first infusion, and I'm not going to be able to have him to call and say, okay, I'm on hour 3, you know, I mean, and it has been a very different, you know, in my daily, because we're not talking, or, you know, and like Coach Q said, you know, you look at your watch and by a certain time your phone hasn't rang, like what's up? And I know that those days are coming. Even today I went to the doctor and I immediately called my mom to tell her how many quote vials of blood they took. And I'm just like, no, I don't have my sickie there with me anymore. But he made it safe for me. But he also, again, he shed that light in an area that a lot of people, when they are ill, they can't do that. And on top of it, he made me find a light in what I go through every day. So that part of him is like such a gift that he's given to so many people.
And he was pretty excited about his health moving forward. I don't know if you guys remember his words on the podcast last time he was on. He was talking about him getting a whole new body, new prosthetic, new medication.
He was going to be standing on the sidelines.
Right. He actually called himself RoboCop. He's like, I'm getting a new bionic body. I cannot wait for this upcoming season. So I'm sorry that didn't all work out for him, but to speak to your point, Kelly, his level of enthusiasm and positivity around everything, even in the face of him about to perish a week later, you never would have known how sick he actually was. I know he was going through some stuff at the end spiritually, and hopefully that's not what ended up actually doing him in, but the positivity that always emanated around him, I think, is what kept him going strong for so long.
So Saturday, I was up there for the tryout with the Nighthawks, and then I went over to the truck and I saw that Donnie wasn't there, because I thought, if I am in Vegas and I do not go over to this truck and see him, even though it was a little bit out of my way, he's going to kill me. Like, he literally is going to roll his butt down to LA and literally just massacre me. And so he wasn't there. I sent him some message, and on the way home, it was about an hour and a half drive, because I stopped at Crumble Cookie and made myself a nice little pit stop there. But nonetheless, he and I had a conversation almost the whole way from Vegas to Bullhead. And then once I actually got into Bullhead, he called me later on. And so this was late into Saturday evening. Neela and Ramsey had already come home, and he was even talking in that conversation. You know, I'm getting better. He was having a lot of pain that day. I argued with him about going to the doctor. I know Neela argued with him, and he said, I am not going to the hospital. And I said, you are a jackass. And he's like, fine, I will be a jackass. And we kind of joked it off. And but he said, you know what? No, sister, I'm getting better. So he had found, at least Saturday at some point, a couple of times through our conversation in that hour and a half drive home, plus later in the evening time, he sounded better. He talked about how he, outside of this pain that he was having specifically in that one area, he was still really talking up his health. He was talking about he's getting out of his dark place. So when I got the call Sunday morning, that was my first thought, was this kind of something that he had a dark moment, and I just go back to that last conversation that we had. He was happy that the family was home. He's feeling better. I'm back on path. Everything's going to be good. And, you know, I'm going to go eat and I'll call you back, sis. And, you know, or I'll talk to you later. It was something like that. And, you know, you said, I love you's goodbye. So at least I know for Saturday and Saturday afternoon, even fighting the physical pain he had, I believe his mental was in a good place. And that's what gives me a little bit of peace.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I always wondered as well. He was very cool with me on the phone on Friday night, and then on Thursday night, excuse me, and then again on Saturday where I talked to him. Everything seemed to be in the right spot. So I don't know. It's tragic. We're all going to have a huge hole that needs to be filled. I myself didn't know how big that hole was going to be until I took some time to stop and reflect on it. And as I say to everyone when they lose someone, don't try to mask it. Make sure you allow yourself to feel every ounce of grief and remorse. And once you felt it all, you can start to heal. If you try to bury it and mask it, it will fester for forever and give you all types of other additional ailments you weren't expecting until you allow yourself to heal over the event. So the little words of wisdom from an old guy who's dealt with a lot of death in his life. All right. So I do have a major announcement, but I'm going to save that and just let you guys know to stay tuned. There is going to be some things that will be dedicated to Donnie and his family by the Nevada division. At the very minimum, the overall league might allow me to do some things in their name and behalf as well. But know that there will at least be a major development in the name of Donnie Bunac and the Bunac family that will be announced within the month of November when I get done setting it up. So his legacy will live on through our Nevada division for certain, as long as it's still intact, and he'll always have a place in my heart.
Amen.
Absolutely.
All right, so we're getting up close to the hour mark. I want to invite everyone to give us a last wish or last words that you'd like to leave the fans with in regards to Donnie as we say goodbye. Coach Q, I'll let you go first. Okay. Kelly, you volunteered. You go first.
Okay. So the other night I get a call. It was my dad, and my dad had only met Donnie like once or twice. And my dad is bawling his eyes out. And I'm like, Dad, what happened? And he's like, I just started reading stories about your friend. And he goes, I can't stop crying. And I'm like, Dad, why? Like, he goes, I knew his face was kind. He goes, you could see that in his photos. He goes, but Kelly, do you know how many lives that he touched? And I didn't really think about it. You know, you see people post on Facebook and you see all those things. And my dad, who, like I say, met him once or twice in passing, didn't just, hey, Dad, this is Donnie, Dad, yada, yada, yada. And my dad, a man in his 70s, was like, I can't believe that one human being has done so much. And he said, what a blessing he is. And he said, even the remainder of my days, I hope I can be the type of person that Donnie was/is. And I'm like, what do you mean is? And he's like, because I know that you and seeing the people that he touched are going to keep that alive. So I know I will, and I know that we as a league will, but anybody else that's out there listening, I just urge you that when you see a little sparkle in the sky, or maybe if you see something, you may not necessarily think of Donnie directly, but just think of be a good person. Share, like, pay it forward. I know I'm going to pay Donnie's legacy forward, and his love and his laughs, and even sometimes some of his, being ornery, because he had a little ornery side at times, and he has zero filter. So I'm always going to carry that with me. But something that Derek said in one of the group chats to the guys is like, stop and reflect on who you are, how you live, and you look at someone like Donnie and you see those things, really take from this loss and take all of the good pieces of Donnie and implement that into your life. And even if it's one good deed a day, if we can just be kind to one another and find our blessings and our silver lining in every situation, even if it's crappy, I know that will carry Donnie's legacy on. So I know I'm going to do that, and I hope everybody else does. And thank you so much for anybody who has supported, said a prayer, shared a message, shared the GoFundMe campaign, any little positive vibe that you have taken steps to do as Donnie's friend / sister / division manager, someone in his life. Like, you're very appreciated for any efforts you've done for Donnie and his family.
That's beautiful, Kelly. Thank you so much. Coach Q?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I agree with what everybody's saying. Coach Donnie's that way. He just had his way. And, I hope that I'm the same way. I raised 9 kids, and he's raised a lot of kids, even his grandsons. He'd take on anybody right off the street. That being said, taking over his position, becoming a part of his family now, inside family. I'm going to have to just, humble myself, be like he was, have that humor, and hold on to this legacy for him and build it and do the best I can to keep holding on. Because remember, I'm an old guy, so I got one foot in the banana peel, one in the grave. So, but I'll continue to do my best. And I thank everybody for their acceptance of me assuming a great coach's position. And I plan to keep that moving forward with his legacy, his name, and, be there to support, our players and the whole A7FL community. And I'm like Coach Donnie. Anybody need time to talk, get a hold of me. And I thank everybody out there that supports us, supports Coach Donnie's family. The A7FL has become a real good, big family community. And we plan to keep it that way. And I know that's what Coach Donnie would want. And Coach Bartley would say the same thing. So I appreciate all you.
Thank you, Coach Q. And you are old enough now at this point in your life where you could speak to people with no filter and say some foul shit to them, just like Donnie would at a moment's notice. And no one would think anything of it because of your age. We all got shocked by it when Donnie did it because he's my age, but at your age, you can get away with that. So I'm counting on you to have a little rawness from you to throw that out there.
Here's going to be the motto, okay?
Yeah.
Respect. We're doing this for Coach Donnie. Nobody break the barrier. I'm your elder. You got kids. Listen. Got it? If we can do that and respect one another, we're good. We're getting to the top. So
100%. Just make sure you're having fun while you do it.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun. All the guys are ready. The players are like, man, can't wait to do this and do that. And in fact, after our event Friday, we all want to get together and go ride I don't know what they want to do. I'm like, I haven't been on anything that high since I jumped out of a plane years ago, but I'm willing to go with you guys and celebrate this with you guys. So it's going to be a good thing Friday night.
That's awesome. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, Coach Bartley.
Well, I just have to say that, and I know Donnie's probably listening in on us right now, that it's been an honor and a privilege to have shared the field of battle with him. It honestly would have not been the same without him. And it's never going to be the same. But like Coach Hugh was saying, and he and I, we talk, and as we develop in our relationship and getting more closer, that we're going to definitely keep his name, up high, positive, and his legacy, because he deserved it. He's probably one of few guys who I know I can talk football, law enforcement, anything of that matter, crack jokes, whether they be raunchy, foul, doesn't matter. The fact that we had that relationship, and no matter what, we can literally sit there and be there for each other. And I'm going to miss that from him.
Cool. Sorry, Coach. I was talking and didn't unmute myself. I appreciate the sentiment and kind words. I am going to take this on more of a level of fun story and levity. Donnie, like I said, raved about, helped me out with the Elks Lodge and Taco Tuesday. I have a extremely special recipe for taco meat that Donnie tried 100 times to get out of me, and I would never part with it until he decided that he was going to be a full-fledged member of the Elks Lodge. So when he did that, I turned over my recipe to him, and he said he still couldn't figure out how to make hamburger tacos the same way I did. He always called it hamburger tacos. I had never heard that from anybody ever before in my life. He's like, "You rock them hamburger tacos, bro. I make the chicken and the beef better though." So, but I just want to say that there's a huge hole in my life and in my heart with Donnie Bunac no longer being around. I want to say to each of you in this podcast with me tonight, and anyone who listens to this, that we all need to help each other fill that void and fill that hole. That's the way Donnie lived his life. He was there for everybody whenever they needed it. And I am asking you, all of you, to be there for me when I need you. And I promise you, I will be there for you, even if you don't need me. If I hear that there's any drama going on in your life, I will pop up like a bad penny, like I have over the years. And you can trust that I'll always be by your side, given the opportunity. That is the legacy that I feel that Donnie has left for me. And I intend to carry that forward and to make sure that all of us are well taken care of spiritually, and make sure you've always got somebody to lean on, because that's what he did for all of us.
Amen.
KC.
Yep.
You want to finish it up and take us out?
Sure, absolutely. I didn't have a whole lot of time to talk and get to know Donnie but from what I did get to know him, he was a personality, if nothing else, on field. Completely. There were things that me and him had started to talk about in ways where he could help me with my business as well. And he was real big on trying to get me out to Las Vegas, Nevada, and getting me to move out there, as has the whole A7FL Nevada. I will say that there might be some things in the work by the season start in spring that could have me planted out in Nevada, Mount Charleston or Mountain Springs area within an hour of Las Vegas. If things go right, I've been looking at some properties out that way, to move out that way to try to up my business even more. So that'll be, that's mainly thanks to Donnie and some of the things that he told me. So he was a great human being. I'm glad I got to know him in the time I did, and know what I did know about him, and know him the way I did know him. I'm just excited to see how this whole entire Nevada division dedicates the season to Donnie Bunac, and how I'm excited to see one of the Vegas teams go out there and really compete and try to bring a championship home, not just for Las Vegas A7FL, but for the memory of Coach Donnie Bunac as well.
Amen.
That's beautiful, Casey. Well, I want to thank everyone for being on the show with us tonight and sharing your personal memories and a piece of your heart. It's very special, and I know it's difficult, and I personally feel that talking about it is the best way to heal, so you can allow yourself to feel it. So with that, I want to say one last final thank you to every single one of you who showed up today. Even Big Mac, he had a family emergency, he had to jump off, but I know where his heart is. Big Mac is, even through the drama where they were having words or whatever, Mac always appreciated Donnie, and we talked about that all the time. So with that, one last time, thank you all so very much. To the fans, thank you for listening in. Please keep Donnie in your heart. As Kelly said, if you can just be a good person and help the person next to you when you see them struggling, this world will be a better place, and it will be a better place because Donnie was in it.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, Casey, with that, will you please take us out?
Yep. I want to say this first, though, as I do. Donnie Bunac, 1975 to 2022, gone too soon, but never forgotten. Rest in peace, brother. Until next time, we will see you on the other side of the ball.